Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the BFUHS School Board Meeting.
The Bellows Falls Junior High School Board meeting. Today's Monday, August 14th, 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First up for business, I'd like to pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So thank you everybody for coming. First thing I'd like to do is introductions around the room, and this time I'd like to start on the left. Kelly, please.
Hi, good evening, Kelly Ryan, principal. I'm Jamie Starrow on the Bellows Falls Union High School Board representing Westminster.
I am Tanya Noyes. I represent Athens.
June Streeter, I represent Westminster on the high school board.
Jason Terry, I represent Rockingham on the high school board.
Andy House, Superintendent.
Mike Stack, representing Rockingham.
Priscilla Lambert, representing Rockingham. Darcy Spade, representing Grafton.
Rob Welts, representing Rockingham.
Deborah Wright, representing Rockingham.
David Clark, Union High School for Westminster.
Thank you all. So
I haven't seen him here yet, so we may need to have some flexibility in this schedule.
I don't see any board members online either. So, okay. So we do have some guest speakers coming. So we're going to have, we might have to jump back a little bit. So we do have two adjustments to the agenda that I'm aware of. One is going to be a 4A. We're going to have some guest speakers from the Burlington area. I forget their titles, but they're going to talk to us about recent events that have popped up in our high school. And June, you have a 4B for us?
To give Andy and Kelly the authority to purchase carbon filters. I'd like to add that as 4B.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? We do have a long meeting tonight, so thank you for that. Okay, so what I'd like to do is, while we're waiting for the people to jump in, would you let us know when to jump in, Andy? What we'd like to do is start with some communication and public comment, if there is anybody. So what I'd like to do is, Ms. Charles, if you do, could you please come to the desk and talk real loud into that speaker, and if you could put your name and email on there. I know what it is anyway, but I'd like to thank you for coming and speaking.
All right, I'm happy to. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Cheryl Charles, and I chair the Westminster School Board and also chair the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union Board. I wanted to say really to the public tonight that I attended as a citizen today the Buildings and Grounds Committee of the Bellows Falls Union High School Board. And that board is dealing with, as is the administration of both the high school and the supervisory union, recent news about PCB testing results that have been already reported in the Brattleboro Reformer. And I just want to say that I think the committee, and it was something like 9 out of 12 of the high school board members were there in attendance in person today, that everyone is taking this so seriously, and want to say to the public how thoughtful all the questions were today, how serious the issue is, but at the same time, this board, this administration, the new leadership at the high school, and certainly the supervisory union, everyone is taking it seriously. So I thank you for that. And I encourage everyone to come to the public forum, which I think you'll say more about in this meeting. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Anyone else in attendance? Good. Is there anybody online with any public comment?
Look,
Sorry, Chris.
I don't see anyone.
Okay.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, Chris. Go ahead.
Mr. Kibbe, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not gonna take up your time, but I just wanted to let you know we're here to be supportive of you and the school community, and hope that we navigate through this without too much difficulty. So good luck to you all, and thank you all for your work.
Thank you, Mr. Giving.
So Jill is here, Bruce Campbell, who's from the AOE. And then I'm trying to see if anyone else. Jill, Evan isn't here yet, is he?
No, I think that folks were planning on joining at 7. I jumped on early.
We were just trying to adjust the agenda to fit everyone's needs. I didn't know they were coming at 7, so that I missed that. So I guess, oh, Devin is here now. No, not.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
fantastic.
I know I was looking for Evan, not Devin. So I guess we can wait till they get here.
You okay, my man?
It's
been a long day.
Long.
All right, so why don't we move into review and approve board minutes for July 24th. Can I get a motion for that? Mr. Clark.
It's not a motion, actually. I went looking for them on the WNESU website. Oh, I take it back. July 24th was there, but the 17th was not.
Okay.
So, I suppose I can offer a motion on minutes of July 24th. And it's, if I can speak under my motion,
Yes,
what happened to the 17th?
that's a great question. I will follow up and get back. Yeah, I'm disappointed. We've been, we've been batting 800, 5 out of 6 times we've hit that mark of getting them in.
It was the 18th,
The
because
18th.
that was the one we had on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
So-
Priscilla.
But I know that Darcy and Tara have been working extremely hard on them, and I'm sure it was just an oversight, and we'll get them on there for you, David. I apologize to you and the public. Thank you. Did you say you did have a motion for the 24th?
Yes, I'm moving that we accept the minutes of July 24th as presented.
Okay,
I have corrections.
go ahead. Go right ahead, Priscilla.
Pardon?
Please.
On the motion to ratify the board votes, you had said to me at the end, I'm gonna put you down as abstain, and I said, no, I vote yes. So that should have been a yes vote there for me. And then on the motion on Melissa Hamilton, I also voted yes.
Okay.
I did not abstain.
Are you okay if we approve those
With
minutes
corrections.
with those corrections?
Yes.
Okay,
I would consider that a friendly amendment, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Mr. Clark. Okay,
Thank you,
so
Mr. Clerk.
we're up for a vote. David, how do you vote?
Yes.
Deb?
Aye.
Rob?
Yes.
Darcy?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Mr. Stack?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Tanya?
Yeah.
And Jane?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And again, we will get the 18 squared away. All right, up next, we have some reports and listening session stuff. So one thing we're trying to do this month is to take a little bit of the burden off the superintendent. When we go to the WNESU meeting, there's 3 of us on that board, myself, June, and Mike, and Priscilla's there too, but she's representing Rockingham. So typically I try to ask the superintendent for a report, but I'd like to put the burden on us, so to speak, because it's, our school. And so June's gonna kind of summarize the meeting, the last WNESU meeting. So, fire away, June.
Okay, so we discussed and approved by the SU board on substitutes for our district. Each school board can help establish procedures for their respective buildings. And I personally would like the high school board to have a little input in this. That the Bellows Falls Union High School Board set a minimum age for subbing at the high school to 22. And then, so we can have a discussion about that at a different meeting. And then a board member, then their interpretation of the law around obtaining waivers for district employees to be on the board. it was her understanding, interpretation that their district job had to be advertised for a certain period of time. But we did obtain a waiver, from the Secretary of Education for both positions, and they stated the law in the waiver, so we have to assume that the Secretary of Education knows the law and is following it. The SU board authorized the superintendent to see if he could negotiate a better deal with the bus lease company for more miles allowed per year. Consulting with, council in doing this. Also, we approved the superintendent to sign a lease for 7 buses this year. We'll sell 7 buses and we will still have 9 old buses left. And then there was a brief discussion on the audit. That's all I have.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Jim?
Just,
Fire away.
I would like to add that since she reported on hours for the buses, that I believe those were increased by 1,000 per bus in the lease agreement that came out from 15,000 to 16,000, I think. The one that got signed.
Yeah, there was.
Just so that we know what Andy's walking around, or he could have done
Sorry,
that.
apologize. About to lose my computer and I didn't think anyone wanted that.
I think your lease agreement did increase the bus miles from 15,000 to 16,000.
It did, yeah.
So, that's what I just was commenting on that.
Right.
I have a question. There was I was on that meeting briefly, and there was a surplus of the budget. Is that what the audit said for the WNESU? And maybe some of that money was gonna go back to the district?
Yes.
Is that something that's to be determined?
No, I believe it's going to happen. As to when it will happen and I have to give a disclosure. I wasn't asked to report on the meeting until like a week ago. So I would have taken better notes at the meeting. So next time I'll take better notes.
I can get you an answer on, so there was a motion and it was passed to redistribute the funds
It was.
based on the business manager's analysis. So when it happens in the ledgers, I don't know exactly, so.
And I'm pretty sure that Deb and Mike will keep their eye on that because that's.
Yeah, I had some questions. I had some questions for Jim when I saw him last week about that.
Right.
I do have a question
Fire away. Yeah.
that maybe you know or not due from the meeting. What is the rate when we run over 16,000 miles?
Andy? Can you help me with that?
12,
Both of them out?
I
Yes.
didn't see the sign.
that was part of what you asked, or the SU asked me, board asked me to do was to get that into that contract, so that was put in.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, great. Just for point of clarification, somebody's gonna need to help me out with this. We didn't decide under 4B where the adjustment for the authority to purchase carbon filters as needed. June, I'm assuming you meant you wanted to put that under new business, 9E?
Sure.
Oh, 4B, but I think.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
So where's it actually going on?
9E.
Oh, I don't have the backside. Okay,
Sorry about that, everybody.
that's okay.
Up next, we have finance report, and again, so Jim is our business manager for the district, but we as the board need to oversee Jim, because we've all been in a situation where we've had a couple business managers come through in my short time. So Mike is on the finance committee. So Mike, do you have anything to report on that?
Honestly, we touched on a lot of it already. The school bus lease getting done. I actually sat next to Jim today at the Buildings and Grounds meeting, and he did not have anything additional.
Okay, great, thank you. Up next, we have the principal's report. So I just want a disclaimer. I asked Kelly, I was asked at the last meeting for a granular breakdown of performance for the class of 2022. the numbers that we were told, the graduation performance. Class of 2022, the numbers we were told seemed very low graduation rate, and Kelly has been really busy and doing a great job. I hope people get a chance to tour the school. It looks really, really good in here. And so she hasn't been able to get all of the numbers, but she is working on that, and she had promised to have it for us on the 28th of April. And I prefer to have accurate numbers instead of just thrown at a dartboard. So I commend her for her honesty, and I appreciate that. So if you want to give us your report minus that.
Sure.
Fire away.
2023 or 2022?
2022, sorry.
That's last
So 2 years ago.
No, sorry, it's just this past June, my.
23.
I was like, I completed the 2023.
I need something to stop. Wait, I apologize.
Jason, for our next meeting is what you're talking about,
The
August.
20,
August.
August 28th is gonna have that for us, is that right, Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that work has begun. I met most recently this morning with counseling to talk through the specific data points and what led to some of that. So I'll aggregate that all and bring it back. I'm not sure if you want me to proceed as we did last time. Do folks want to ask me questions about the report? Do you like me to read the report? What's the most helpful?
What are you most comfortable with?
Whatever's best use of time for tonight in particular.
What's the board's pleasure?
I have no questions.
Did everybody get a chance to read Kelly's principal report? Kelly, would you mind then for the public, just, there's a lot of people online and some in the stands. Could you just kind of, summarize, what you've done so far, what you've run into, where the school was, what you're doing, and all the great things you're doing?
Sure. I think there's a lot of pieces going on. I think one of the big things I've been working with Jess Potter, who's our new director of maintenance, and really kind of beginning to do a comprehensive assessment of buildings and grounds and really begin drafting a capital improvement plan to work on in consultation with the board and the building and grounds committee. So we've been really trying to stockpile APAC as we toured the building and started speaking with some of our colleagues throughout the building. Obviously that work is very much at the beginning stages, but we've already identified a lot of pieces. And that was even prior to this PCB update and any additional work that will be required there. One of the pieces that we've been focusing on most acutely is our boiler and generator system and making sure our permitting and all those pieces are up to snuff. We have hired and begun our resumed work with John Hinckley, who is with All For Consulting. He's been a phenomenal resource to us to date, been very available in helping us understand the permitting requirements and navigating with the EPA. The primary need there is moving our generators from an emergency response to a primary powered unit, which would allow the school to access or, explore conversations with Blue Mountain Power to potentially enroll in their demand response program and potentially resume or assume some cost savings to the school. So that's been a big piece. We have begun working and meeting regularly with Steve Horton. He is our owner's representative for construction, and he's been a really great point of connection as it pertains to the HVAC roof driveway in particular. So he's been working with us in those meetings, and our new construction manager, Lars Traffy from Cutter Construction. So he's been great. We've set up bi-weekly meetings with him, and that work will continue, if not be happening more frequently with this most recent update with the ECBs. So we have received updated plans from MBF Architects for the science wing. They've been very responsive, and I've been acting as a go-between between the architects and the science department, faculty in particular. So they've really been able to sit with the plans and provide feedback. I've been taking that back with the architects. So we're nearing completion on that phase, at which point the engineers would come to the building and begin looking at some of the infrastructure here to kind of finalize those plans. Obviously, this is all TBD with this recent update from the state, but just wanted to name that work has been happening. Programmatically, at our last board meeting, we did hire a school counselor and a social studies teacher.
So our 2 open positions remain, or 3 open, sorry, remain health, driver's ed and STEAM. So we are continuing to work on interviewing and outreaching and working with online options and area partners to see how we can creatively and thoughtfully meet those remaining needs in the building. We have begun work on that credit, the graduation pieces from last spring. And as part of that are looking at class by class of sophomore, junior, and senior to get a better sense of who in each cohort is on track to graduate and who isn't, right? And are there any themes in what's working for folks versus what's not, right? And to better understand the supports that we've been providing to those who get off track with those graduation requirements. And to better understand, especially as we resume conversations with New Solutions and reassessing our schedule and credit model, we feel like those data points will be really helpful. We're redoing the student handbook. We are updating our employee manual. And the other thing we've been spending a lot of time on and we'll have finished prior to the start of the year is our emergency operations manual. So that will really inform a lot of our work in the building with a smaller crisis response team, which will meet every 3 weeks or so to debrief our routine drills and do some tabletop exercises and pieces like that. So we've been busy in addition to kind of getting the building ready to open. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Ryan?
Oh, could you expand a little bit on what you mentioned in terms of looking at the schedule and the credit model?
Sure. New Solutions, I don't know, Andy, if you want to chime in, you have some more of the historical knowledge and how they came to be partners with us. You want to start there and I can.
Sure, yeah, so we partnered with New Solutions K-12 to come in and help walk us through looking at our schedules at our secondary level of how we can maximize the use of our staff, but also provide the best support for our students. So that includes looking at how the actual day is structured, how we're utilizing interventions, whether it's an intervention block or intervention classes, and then how we're scheduling kids into different classes. And so that's been a big piece. We just recently had a brief meeting with them to talk about next steps. And they're scheduled to come in September 13th and do start doing some interviewing and talking with teachers. And we've got some letters that'll be going out, teachers, students, staff, but also community members. So that's part of the work that we're doing.
So one of the changes I know we made in looking at the schedule, for example, was this what we call carrier time block. And so that's where we were offering some more targeted academic support, but also some additional enrichment opportunities. And there was some conversation about moving it to the middle of the day versus the end of the day. And we, when we really sat as a coordinators team at the beginning of the month, we really landed with offering it at the end of the day. And one of the primary reasons for that is a lot of those community-based points of connection, like class meetings, things like that, were happening in the morning when 15+% of our building was at tech, right? And so there's really important points of connection. They were missing out on those opportunities, right? So we've moved that into that end of the period day, so they have equal, so more students have access to those important points of connection to community, for example. So we're making some of those modifications and we'll look at some of those bigger picture pieces. The other thing we're looking at right out of the gate is the tech enrollment trends and programmatically, what are our students gravitating, right? And is that a consistent point of interest or are we seeing an uptick in certain types of programs? And I think those data points will be really helpful as we begin to crosswalk that back to what we're offering in the building and when we're offering it, right? To ensure that our schedule isn't a barrier to access for students, right? I think that's been one of the things that we've heard come through in some of the listening tours, right? So we're at very preliminary stages, but things like that.
That's great. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah.
So as you're working in that area, we'd love to hear more about that.
Sure.
Next meeting.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah. Andy, I see
Evans here, Joe's here.
I feel like Robert, I see.
Trying to see who else is here. We can probably get started with. even with Evan, that he'd probably be, and
Okay.
Sarah's here also, so I think we've
So
got a good.
what we're gonna do is, now that the consultants are here, we're gonna let them jump in. If you guys can hear me, please maybe introduce yourselves first, and then if you need us to introduce ourselves again, we can. We're basically the same people who are here this afternoon. So just download everybody in the public and what's going on.
Great. Hi, unfortunately, I'm not a consultant. My name is Evan Pendleton. I'm with the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation, and I'm the site manager, project manager for Bellows Falls. Trish, you want to go?
I'm Trish Capolino. I'm the Senior Program Manager for the Sites Management section within the Department of Environmental Conservation. I'll let health introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Sarah Owen. I'm the state toxicologist here at the health department, and I'm here with Danielle.
Danielle, we can't hear you. There you go.
I think that was me telling Danielle. Danielle, I'll introduce Danielle. She is our program coordinator at the health department, so she is the day-to-day contact for the program within the health department.
And you all have heard from me, Jill Briggs Campbell, Agency of Education.
Thank you for coming, and Evan, if you want to kick us off, fire away.
Yeah, sure. So the reason we're on the phone with you guys tonight is recently your school was tested for the presence of PCBs in the indoor air. It happened in 2 phases. There was something called the building inventory that happened in May, where a consultant, BHB, came to your school and looked for PCB containing materials in every space in your school. And then they formulated a sampling plan to sample 30% of those grouped like areas. So they divided up the school into groups. So the gymnasium is one group in your case, some classrooms are another group, etc. And they sampled 30% of those spaces in a group. And then we just received the results of the indoor air for PCBs last week. And so we presented them to your staff, and we're here tonight to talk about the results and answer any questions.
Okay. Does somebody want to go over the results specifically?
Yeah, Danielle, can you have audio now? Do you want to run through the occupancy?
I can try,
Okay.
unless Danielle, you can try to speak. I do not use Zoom, so give me a second to understand how to share. I suppose.
I gotta make it so you can. Hang on.
Oh, so it's not my fault I can't share.
We lock it down here, so. Give me a second.
Oh, I see share screen just lit up for me. Oh, disabled.
Sometimes I have a ghost that's helping me in the background. So let me, trying to do it so far away. There it is. Okay. Kelly, does that say multiple?
It did, yeah, the blue is multiple.
All right, you should have power now. You should have, Sarah, you should be able to.
Okay. Okay. Share screen. I have a lot of things open, so I am looking for the right document to share with you. Okay, do you see a PDF document with the list of rooms on it?
Yeah, nope.
That was a no?
Yeah. Hang on 1 second. Hit cancel. Hit cancel again. You gotta hit it on the other screen, actually. Sorry.
Oh.
There we go. And then I can't read what that says.
What is that saying?
Their own has started screen share. But
So all we're seeing is a black screen right now.
Okay, let me try it again. I'm gonna share. Do you see anything other than a black screen?
no.
No, that's all we see.
Okay, I'll try
So
one
we-
more time. And if not, I will just share the data with my voice.
And I can try to share it too, Sarah, if it doesn't.
Oh, just still seeing the black screen.
Mm.
How's that? Does that work?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it tells me I'm screen sharing, but yeah, Zoom is sometimes very strange with my computer. Yeah, I mean, if
Mine says mine is loading. Oh, no, here we go. Great.
We just need to make it bigger.
Yeah, hold on. Let me hear. How's that? Is that big enough?
Yay.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay. All right. I'll go to the start of the table, Sarah.
Yeah, I only see a black screen, so
Okay.
I have the letter up in front of me. So I think what you're probably looking at is a list of primary occupied spaces. So we divide the spaces into primary occupied spaces, so places where students and staff spend a significant part of their day, at least 6 or 7 hours or so. The other spaces are called ancillary spaces, and those can be important for DEC when they're investigating sources, but we don't provide occupancy recommendations for places like hallways and bathrooms. Those have to stay open. So what you see is the table with information on the PCB results, and you can see that some of the results are bolded. We have 2 different action levels. We have a school action level, which is 100 nanogram per meters cubed. That's the action level that applies to a high school. And that helps to prioritize when there are sources that can be removed. There's a higher level called the immediate action level. That's 300 nanograms per meter cubed. And above that level, we recommend that occupancy be changed so that people can reduce their exposures to PCBs. On the right side of the table, you'll see 3 different occupancy options. So we use the same framework for all the data that we get in from schools. These occupancy options, they are temporary. So as we're doing tonight, we're giving you guys some advice and ways you can reduce exposures immediately, knowing that you'll be working with the consultants in DEC to find sources, remove them, and those air levels are going to be coming down in the future. The occupancy options range from the least exposure, so option 1. As you move on to option 2, you're accepting more PCB exposure. And then option 3 has the most exposure. We do support all these options. They are intended to give schools flexibility. So we recommend that schools start with option 1. If that's feasible to keep your kids in school, keep the schools open and providing that learning environment, then that's great. If not, then you move to option 2. And if that's not an option, you move to option 3. The spaces that are the most impacted, you can see the gymnasium is 850, the wellness room. As we scroll down that table, we also see the auditorium and stage. These are rooms that we recommend not to be used in options 2 and 3. If we look at option 1, we do see that there are a lot of spaces that could not be used. So for a school as large as yours, we're assuming that that's not going to be something that's feasible for you. So moving on to option 2, it does give you more options to use a lot of those spaces. Option 2 provides an option to reduce the number of hours that are spent in the school, and that's 26 hours for the entire week. If that's something that's feasible for you guys, then that is great. And if not, then you can move on to option 3, which allows you to occupy the spaces that say use with no limit. So I'm happy to answer questions, explain more. We are really sorry that you're in this position. We don't like, we don't like PCBs in schools. We know that these are dangerous chemicals that shouldn't be in schools. And so we want to support you and help explain things to your community as best we can.
We have a question from a board member, David Clark. Go ahead, David.
Okay, my question is there mobility between option 2 and option 3?
Is there mobility?
If the high school designates option 2, can they, as deemed appropriate, move to option 3? Or if we started in option 3, could we backpedal option 2?
I'm going to let Evan answer that, or Trish as the DEC.
So both, oh, go ahead, Trish.
I can't see Evan. I don't know if you can stop sharing.
Okay. Yep.
But movement between options is really going to come down to either reducing indoor air concentrations if you do any type of mitigation work to affect concentrations that are in the indoor air, or if you start with one of the options and it's not working for you and you need to move to a different option. So that is certainly something that the school can evaluate and and work through. But usually the change in occupancy is when we see a change in indoor air concentration.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, please continue.
That concludes my presentation of the data, but I'm happy to answer more questions if you have them, or if there's a specific part you want me to discuss more, just let me know.
On Thursday, are you guys coming on Thursday also?
We will be there in person on Thursday, yes.
Thank you. That answers my question.
We will also have a more formal presentation for Thursday as well.
I just wanted to note that we did schedule that meeting for Thursday night at the Bellows Falls Middle School, not at the high school.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Kelly communicated that to us, but it's at the middle school auditorium, I believe, right?
Correct. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I got that on record.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Thanks.
Does do you want anybody else to speak on anything, or?
I think we're good. I just want, we just asked them to be here if there were additional questions. I appreciate that they were willing to join us. But many of you were at the buildings and grounds, so
Good to hear it twice, though.
Yeah. So
And the meeting time on Thursday. Just so everybody hears.
yeah, so I don't have it in front of me. I go over it. So,
Okay.
So
Okay,
while Rob's looking up the
Yeah.
time,
6 p.m.
6 o'clock Thursday.
6 p.m.
So I would just like the public to know that we're not answering questions, but we don't have the answers yet. So that's why we invited these people here, and you know, they're going to be there Thursday in person to answer all community questions, because you know, this board is not running away from the problem, and this administration is not running away from the problem. I believe we fully tend to take this head on and fix it. At least I am. So, and I think my board's with me. So, Kate, you have a question?
The forum will be at 6:30.
6:30. 6:30. So again, we want the public to know that, you know, this is a challenge. We've had other challenges, and we feel confident that you know, we'll do the right thing. Chris Kimby has a. Chris, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that those of us at home couldn't see the numbers for the academic wing that Sarah was showing, and it would be great to be able to see them, but I wanted to let you know they weren't, everything in the school wasn't available on your screen.
Yeah, I did focus mostly on those sections and those groups where we saw the highest levels of PCBs, and those areas do include the gym, the wellness room, the auditorium, and the stage. While there were some PCB detections above the school action level in the rest of, I think, what you're calling the academic section, meaning there are levels, they will need to be addressed. They did not result in do not use designations in options 2 and 3. So, in a sense, the school only has a couple of rooms that are really impacted, but unfortunately, those are those very big spaces, the gym and the auditorium. But we are working with the school to get this letter in a format to send out to the community as well. So we can either screen share again and go through that, or we'll be providing it to the school really shortly.
To jump in on you, Chris, in the public, the gym was reported at 850 nanograms per square meter. So we made a box over here, what a square meter is. Can everybody on Zoom see this?
No, not right now. Well, yeah, now they can. You can see
Okay.
David mostly. Sorry, David. It's a cubic meter.
So this is a cubic meter, this box that Jeff Potter made up today. So it's pretty big area. So the rule is no more than 300 nanograms in a cubic meter. Is that correct, science people? So
Yeah, that's the immediate action level for the high school.
that's bad. So this paper clip right here weighs approximately a gram, and a nanogram is 1 billionth of this paper clip. So 1 billion. So that would represent, so if we had 300 nanograms for a cubic meter, it'd be something like this dot here that you could see on this huge area of surface. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Chris, but so we had 850, so it'd be double that dot, I suppose, plus a little bit more. So I'm not sure if that answers or if it helps everybody else out there.
That wasn't my question, but thank you very much, Sarah.
Okay. Jim, go ahead.
I was just wondering if you could tell the folks in Zoom land and in the audience what the difference is between the 3 options. We brought up option 1, option 2, and option 3, but I'm not sure that they are understanding what each option consists of.
Sure. So our goal with the PCB program, the legislature required the testing, and so our job is to interpret the data, and we're recognizing that PCBs are harmful chemicals that should not be in schools, and we're balancing that with the really important need to keep schools open and keep kids in these classrooms. And so we've developed sort of 3 different stepwise options. The first option 1 is where a school chooses to use the rooms that were tested less than the school action level. And one of the important things about this testing program is that not all of the rooms are tested. So before the testing happens, the consultants come in and they do a building-wide inventory of all the potential PCB containing building materials in each room. And then using that information, they group rooms into similar groups based on what types of building materials are there. And then about 30% of each group is sampled. And so I think your school had about 17 different groups. So when we say option 1 is restricted to only the rooms that tested below the school action level, There are restrictions on untested rooms depending on what those tested rooms look like. And so following that, you see when we talk about option one, a lot of the untested rooms are do not use. And that's simply because you did have rooms that exceeded a school action level in that group. When we move on to option two and option three, we are allowing more use of the untested rooms. And in all three options, there's still no use of rooms that are over that immediate action level. That's the higher level. But in options 2 and 3, you are accepting a bit more uncertainty with using these untested rooms. Option 2 has an hourly restriction. So we look at all of the levels in the rooms that people would be using. So we look at all the different PCB concentrations in those rooms that are labeled use, and we take an upper estimate of the average. So we use that to try to estimate how much could be in those untested rooms. So we assign those untested rooms a concentration. And going back to the demonstration about a nanogram and a cubic meter, the action levels are based on the dose of the chemicals not to exceed. So in this case, the US EPA has told the scientific community that a certain dose of only 20 nanograms per kilogram per body weight is allowable. And so we take that average concentration and we compare it to that estimated dose. So we try to keep people under that dose that EPA says not to exceed. When we move on to option 3, we still are allowing no use of those rooms that are over the immediate action level, but instead of having an hourly restriction, so in option 2, it's 26 hours a week, that is lifted so that it's 40, 45, whatever normal operating hours are for your school.
Thank you. Jill, if you could you explain the reimbursement model for us and the public as well?
Yeah, sure thing. So the AOE's role here is that the legislature set aside $32 million in education funding in 2022, so going back a year. And it was for PCB mitigation and remediation. And just defining those terms really quickly, mitigation is the temporary measures that you're going to take to reduce the concentration of PCBs in the air, and remediation is the permanent removal. So very briefly, just so we kind of know how we got to where we're at, in 2022, the legislature authorized the AOE to use 2.5 million of those dollars, very specifically restricted to the costs associated with hiring a consultant, which is something that the district is already doing, source investigation, so trying to identify the source of PCBs, and then mitigation strategies. And all of those have to be approved costs by DEC. So AOE is sort of the bank, but DEC is the approver of the costs. So in this last session, that left 29 million, give or take. And in the last session, the legislature acted again. And what they did is, the first thing they did is they reverted some of that $2.5 million back into the ed fund. We tried to save as much of it as we could. And then the remaining 29 million, 16 million of that has been set aside for Burlington High School's demolition and removal of PCB contaminated materials. And that leaves us with 13.5 million. And that is what is available at this moment for, again, the cost of hiring the consultant, costs associated with source investigation, costs associated with those short-term mitigation strategies, and remediation. And the way that it works is that now that you have PCBs in your school, you are now in sort of a DEC regulatory framework, right? And you're going to be working with your consultant to develop your plans for investigating the source, the plans for mitigation, and ultimately the plans for remediation, and then confirming that it all worked. And that all goes from the school and the consultant to DEC for approval. And what DEC will do is they'll generate an approval letter, essentially a not to exceed award letter. And very simply, the school comes to AOE at that point. So at this point, AOE hasn't been involved, but at this moment, the school comes to AOE. You'll submit for a grant award, basically, and you can include costs that you've incurred as of, you know, the day that you heard about this, that are those DEC approved costs, and then we reimburse you for those costs up to 100%. So it's 100% reimbursement for those costs. I am signaling that at this point there's $13.5 million available. Talk to your legislature if you feel that more funds need to be approved here, but that's what we're working with right now. And you'll notice I've said DEC approved costs about 1,000 times, and that's because that's really important here. So AOE by statute, it's in the appropriations bill, cannot award any costs that have not been approved by DEC in the letter. And so what that means for you all is it's really important to be working very closely with DEC and your consultant and staying within that work plan. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick question. So the 13.5 million, that's not for Bellows Falls, that's for the whole rest of the entire.
You've got it.
Correct?
Everybody. Yes.
Except Burlington, they already got their 16 million.
That is correct.
June?
Yeah, I was wondering if one of you could speak to the rumor I'm hearing that our high school is not the only high school in the area that is having PCB issues. That some of our fellow area schools, neighboring schools, are also having them.
I'll let Eben or Trish take that. Yeah.
Sure. So there's two other schools close to you right now that are also addressing PCB issues. One is the Green Mountain Union High School in Chester, and then the other one is Twin Valley Elementary School down in
Wilmington.
Those are the two that are closest to you right now.
Thank you. Deb?
So maybe you don't know this answer yet, Jill, I think. But is there since it's only $13.5 million for every school built prior to 1970, or within that range, your ranges, what do you have an idea of what the max dollars per school would be? Or is there no max? It's just based upon what the DEC decides is an acceptable level of reimbursement.
Yeah, so good question. So as written in statute, it's 100% reimbursement for all DEC approved costs. So there is no cap as it was written in the appropriation. So you are correct. There's $13.5 million available for all of the schools that are being tested, which is Eben 325. Not all of them will have PCBs, but some significant number of them will. But as of right now, there is no cap written in statute. So it's 100% reimbursement. And I think that the question that we're pointing to and that we do not have an answer is what happens when that 13.5 million has been obligated. And we don't have an answer for that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm seeing no other questions. Anybody? Okay. I'd like to thank you guys for coming. People on Zoom and in the audience, if you want to send questions, you can always email them to me. I'm on the school website, and we can maybe streamline it for Thursday as well. If you don't want to speak up,
I don't mean to interrupt. Evan and his team did ask that if people had questions, if they could email, if we could get them to Evan ahead of time, they would prepare answers based on some of those. Yep. So if they want to email you directly or want to email me, that would be helpful, because then we can coordinate that and get them up there, because it's quick turnaround. So
I'd actually prefer you all to email Andy Haas, and that's Haas at WNESU. Thank you, Andy.
.com. Perfectly fine.
I have a
Go ahead,
question
Judy.
for you all. Are we gonna make the numbers available to the public before the meeting, on the, individual rooms tested and?
I'd like to have an opportunity to talk with Evan on that, because that is part of it has to be posted in 10 days, after 10 days, and so, and some of that'll come down to if there's a request for an extension and some other things, so.
Thank you, great question, Jason. All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great
Thank you
evening.
all for coming.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the long time you put in.
Bye.
Thank you.
So as we met today, and Kelly, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you've done such an incredible job. I think it's important for our community to know the areas that are above the 300. Can you just speak briefly about things that have taken place since we found out Thursday night, Friday morning? Just to show the community what we are doing in the last couple of days, getting us ready for Thursday's meeting.
Sure. I think right out of the gate, given the spaces that were impacted, we prioritized our work and support to the preseason cohorts. And so began outreach, beginning with football, because their preseason team started this morning at 7 a.m. So immediately on Friday, we met with the director of athletics and Bob Lockerbie, and some members of the school community, director of maintenance, and kind of broke the news to him and began immediately kind of rallying resources and began moving his stuff that he needed to launch the program on time. And to his kind of high vision for opening over to a different area of the building where the transportation office was. And we continue to support him in getting those pieces over there, including PE, so relocating all the materials that he'll need from his offices. We've been working with him, and we'll have a coaches meeting tomorrow at 5 with the rest of the fall season coaches to continue to outline their needs in terms of equipment and space for their athletes in the building, in terms of locker rooms and things like that. So we're continuing to kind of co-create options that we feel will at least get us through the fall season safely. Let's see, we met today. You want me to speak to the consultant? So as our liaisons outlined today, we, if we're gonna choose, if the board chooses option 2 or 3, one of the criteria there is that the district enlists support from a consultant to support our work around PCB remediation and mitigation, and will support ongoing testing. So we on Friday outreached to Greg McDonald from BHB. He is someone who's been supporting the constituents who spoke today with the testing in the building. He's very familiar with our building and the testing results and our community needs, especially as an open concept school. He and his colleagues were available. We met with him today at 4 o'clock. He and his team are available to support the building moving forward. And an outcome of that meeting, he was able to outline some immediate mitigation measures that he felt we could take. And so we're exploring that as we speak. And I think that's an upcoming agenda item. I was very encouraged by some of the discussions that we had with him.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good question.
Okay, moving on, so it looks like June already went over the SU board, so we don't need to go over that. Up next is, number 2, building and grounds, sorry, go ahead.
Question is, doesn't this board have to make a decision whether we're going to take option 2 or 3? And we have 2 weeks to do that, but we don't meet until the end of the month.
So we meet Thursday, where I believe there is an agenda item, but we could always do a special meeting or.
That's the community meeting, isn't it?
No, there's a, we made it a quorum or a regular meeting, regular board meeting.
Okay.
But there's the community, and then we have some business to take care of as well. David, correct me if I'm wrong, is that correct? That's what we did, right?
You are correct, sir.
So that's a special meeting on Thursday.
Basically, yeah. So up next, we have buildings and grounds.
Yes, some folks in the audience.
Oh.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you mentioned that you're gonna meet with the other coaches later on. They know not to use it.
Correct.
Now though, right? Because kind of field hockey. Yeah,
They have a meeting tonight. Or
Yeah.
a meeting.
yeah, so right after Kate O'Connor sent that notice to the community, about an hour later, I, conferred with the athletic director. We sent a tailored message to the coaches, letting them know that their spaces were specifically offline. Because I know many were in the building, kind of getting ready, very excited, right, prepping for the season. And we wanted to make sure that if they were coming to the building, that they knew what they would be walking into. And that there was gonna be ongoing conversations to support them and launching strongly, so.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. So I don't see Steve Horton, but, I'll try to give a quick building and grounds, update. And everyone was there today from here, so jump in anytime. So we met at 12, we were there until 3:30. We did a tour of the school, with Jeff and Kelly, and we had the same 4 people on, and, they had, they were talking the same stuff that they were talking about, with the public. And we had some questions and, we outlined, so we're still moving forward with other things that we'd like to do and, try to get the school open. Not try, we will get the school open on time and, most likely. And, had a nice tour, with Kelly and Jeff. They've done a lot of work. I wish more people were here, but there's, semblance of walls, and, Jeff and his crew did a good job of, I guess there were some shorter cubbies and they moved some things around and now they're taller cubbies and it looks like a little bit higher wall. The place is clean. When you walk in the front doors, the whole, I don't know what you would call it, the main alleyway, it's purple and white. There's not a bunch of clutter all over the place. They set up some special, cubicles for the paraprofessionals in the special ed wing. We reviewed the generator. Wednesday, we're going to meet and do another tour of the outside of the facility. And there's some stuff that we have, designed for some capital projects down the road. And it was nice to see that, it seems like we're all on the same page as far as like, we want to fix the infrastructure in this building that has been lacking, for a long time. And, it's pretty sad to see that, we're running with, three tires on a car instead of 4. But, I think there's a good plan in place and I think there's some committed people inside the building, inside this room that are going to, see it through. And, that's the goal, that's the vision. And educate kids at a high level, while we're doing all of that. So we're all gonna be pretty busy. So that's kind of the building and grounds update. Anybody else wanna add anything else? All right, up next, we have, just some, committee updates. One is I put on here budget update because typically we start the budget process, last year we started like November, busy, snow, whatever, Christmas, holidays. And then all of a sudden we're like getting the budget out, and it kind of felt, we probably could have done a better job last year with the budget. So I'm asking that, the budget committee and anyone can come to the budget, meetings, just like we did today, but the committees, myself, Mike and David, want to get a date certain, before August 28th. We're going to have our first budget meeting, the 3 of us. I know you're busy, but, it's important also. And, Andy and Jim, and we want to, so I want to pin you guys down. Maybe I'll email you after, you guys give us a date and we'll show up. And that's kind of what we want to do, and then get the, process going. And I know, I think I heard that in futures past, there was no real, we want you to hit this number, so to speak. So there was, just a big dartboard you're trying to hit. So we want to all be on the same page. And I think, David, Mike, am I accurate in that? Stuff for the budget committee? Okay. Deb, do you have anything, from the warrants or the treasurer?
After talking to Jim last week, one of those things was he was talking about getting numbers out early, I think he said like early October. So that we have we'd have more material to work with, or the budget committee would. And also finding ways in the interim on dealing with what we need to deal with. There's a lack of teachers and support staff, considering this year's budget, and whether those are going to be filled, or whether we wish them to be filled based on the budget numbers is something that the board will have to consider. So that was what Jim brought up. Also, the new accounting system, the new system they're using for warrants is very time consuming for them, and also pumps out a bunch of really lengthy reports. Everything is going landscape, looks like this. Sometimes it's just like a couple lines on one page, and then it's another one for another. I mean, for each check, it's very lengthy, a lot more complicated than it ought to be. But the further conversations with the company who supports this software will have to be had in order to try and find another way to make them more consolidated. Because otherwise, we'll blow on a lot of paper, and it's a lot of sorting for them. So they're trying to get used to it, the way it comes out. So I sat at the table with some of the old system, some of the new system, based upon what they're having to pump out. So those things will be dealt with. But Jim said, come again for the next meeting. We'll have some more specific things, but right now he's looking at what the school administration has to deal with for teachers that need to fill the budget. And then looking at what that budget really should look like for next year, for the 2025 that we'll be building. And he said he would have numbers on early October.
Great.
That's it. Last thing, I have a question, and maybe Annie can answer that. When do you anticipate getting the letter from the audit letter that didn't come with the audit?
The management letter?
The RHR, yeah.
The management
letter, yeah.
I can ask Jim. I don't know.
Don't have an anticipated date yet.
I do not, so.
I mean, that might have some impact on how the budget gets built too.
And he was able to send the Rockingham one the next day after our last meeting, so I'm sure he has the management letter. He just would need to send it to us.
Hasn't issued it yet.
Okay, thank you, Deb, for your
That's
hard
all I
work
have
with
right
that.
now.
Darcy, do you have anything on the SIP committee?
I do not.
Okay, Priscilla, I put down policy. I didn't know if you wanted to update us other than, we have a policy.
Just
under
confirm
9.
that the next policy meeting is August 29th at 5:30 PM. And there are several recommended policies that we need to look at that day.
Okay,
And we'll
thank you,
get those
Priscilla.
out to the committee by then.
Deb, under letter 7, you had asked for a granular breakdown of what ESSER was spent on for the high school based off of superintendent report. Would Jim able to provide that, or?
I did reach out, Shirley Lynch is our grant, person in the office. She's been on vacation when you asked that question. She just got back in the office. As of Wednesday of last week, she was still working on producing that. So I don't have it yet.
Okay. And I knew that was gonna be the case. And Jim and I talked about it, but didn't have anything at this point. The NEA report that you sent us in your superintendent letter, was that done by them? So there's you can click on what ESSER money has been spent in our school, how much money with these different pots, what things they've been spent on.
The
Yeah.
LEA.
It's LEA, I'm
That's a
sorry.
local education agency.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
I
no,
got it
that's
wrong.
okay, yeah.
But the report's not very granular, and the reason why I say that is my thinking is, in order to build a budget and to right size a budget, we need to know in each of these ESSER 1, 2, and 3, how much money was spent on how many teachers, just a question, because I've been out of it for some months, was money added to salaries that was ESSER money, which is completely legitimate, but that has an impact moving forward on contractual agreements. What programs, software, and that sort of thing we added to the school system through ESSER money? How will that track going forward when there's no money for that? Will we continue to support it? Will they be released? Will teachers that have been hired or staff that's been hired with the use of ESSER money be released? or will it be continued? That goes into the budget. So all that, plus the fact that we, out of $20 million, we only have allocated 2 point some million towards facilities.
That's not correct.
That's what it said in the report. It listed infrastructure, just 2 point something million. That was it. out of
Oh,
20 out of
I
20
know
mil.
I know what report you're speaking of. That was a draft report, so we're still unpacking that. That's from the,
It's not complete.
that's from the consultant the AOE hired.
Okay,
So, I apologize for that. So, no, we had to set aside 20% of the 13 million. So of ARP
Okay.
ESSER, 20% had to be set aside for loss of learning. And the rest then could be used for infrastructure and other pieces of that nature. So on our website.
Yeah.
There's a link under ESSER projects to an LEA plan.
yeah,
And that's been just recently updated, and that's the allocations of how we
Okay.
are allocating the bigger funds. And then the breakdown that I provided you all through the superintendent report on what had the numbers was based on what of ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 or ARP ESSER, either what has been spent or what has been allocated.
Mhm.
But what we don't have is the expenditures versus encumbrances and
Right.
whatnot. And some of that, as I said, was also this moving over to Tyler from E-Finance of making sure. So that's what Shirley is working on to get for you.
and that's great. So I just wanted to explain where I had asked, looking at wanting to see more of this information, because it will impact. It says we have this financial bump and then we go back to normal. And what we can expect the public to pay in taxes. So that was it. Thank you.
And Andy, just to clarify, you said that is on our WNESU site and anyone can click on that and.
Correct.
Okay.
And look at it. Thank you.
Deb, should we have that back on the agenda for the?
I don't know when Danny anticipate that it might be completed. The next regular meeting or the. in
Well, I had
September?
a scheduled meeting with Shirley today, but I was a little occupied today here at the high school. So my goal is to get that as soon as possible, but let me double check with her and I'll get a message out to everybody of when we can anticipate.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Deb, for your work with that. Okay, moving on to unfinished business for discussion action, contract matter, fall athletics, possible executive session. David, I'm gonna lean on you.
I
first.
think because it involves personnel, it should go into executive session.
Okay, could you make that motion for us then?
Yeah, are you ready for it now?
Yes.
Okay. I've asked the question because, simply, we could deal with it at the end of the meeting, or if chair desires, we could go in now and then come out and finish when we're done. I'm thinking we may do better to finish the rest of our agenda, which I don't think is very lengthy, and then go in.
There's another possible executive session for appointments resignation.
But I think Deb trained us last month to do that. We gotta do it twice, right, Deb?
Now to come out and go back in.
for-
Hey, listen.
Okay, Jason,
Agitating over it.
if that is the chair's desire, then I would like to move that we go into executive session for the discussion of personnel. Where, pardon me, fall athletics personnel, where premature public knowledge has the potential to disadvantage the board and or the personnel.
Good, thank you. Motion is on the floor to go into executive session. Let's start on this side. Jamie, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Fine?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mike? Yeah. Priscilla?
Yes.
Darcy? Well, Rob?
Yes.
Deb?
Aye.
And Dave?
Yes.
All right.
You wish to have administration?
Oh, you need to include, yeah. you need to
Yes.
do that then, yeah.
I'm sorry, I made that motion improperly and to include administration.
Friendly amendment, yeah.
Can we just do a thumbs up? Everybody's in the room.
So do I have to vote on it again?
No, I just wanted, if you're okay with that, just inviting them.
Yeah.
I would accept Darcy's amendment as a friendly amendment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're coming out of executive session at 8:14 and No action was taken. Yeah. Next up, 8B, Pietro Lynn on Santo suit specifics around the suit itself. David, this is your agenda item.
Okay, and I have a handout to the board, which let's put it on this side. Then I have another one to go down the other side.
8B, Kelly.
He has an 8A, 8B.
We have a 9A, appointments resignation.
Correct. There has not been a great deal of specificity about the, I would say, dynamics of the suit. And I think it's worth understanding that Pietro was actually carrying water for a couple of national tort firms, as they know. These people who go out and sue when they see the opportunity to make some money on a lawsuit. And the contract, which I've just passed around, which is unsigned, and I think I will sit down and deliver my remarks.
Oh, did you pass them that? Oh,
Or will you down that end?
No, we don't have.
They don't have any. Are these it?
Those are they, yep.
Okay, I'll take this one.
The dynamics around the suit as to whether the suit is a good idea or a bad idea. I don't think the board should be taking action on that here tonight. I really think that that's a discussion that should be held after Pietro Lynn has the opportunity to make his case at the supervisory union. Now, what is relevant is that Pietro Lynn very much has a vested interest in the outcome of this suit. And even though the SU chair and I have a disagreement over the degree to which Andy had the operational authority to commit this board as well as the other boards in the SU to the suit, we have a problem. And the problem is that we have a council who has a clear conflict of interest in answering that question. And that conflict of interest will occur again and again every single time that this board needs legal advice as it pertains to how we deal with the PCB issues that we have within this building. And I want to be very clear with the board that I am not advocating throwing council overboard, although in some respects you may deserve it. But I think that we need to have an understanding that council has a very, very large vested interest in the outcome. And unfortunately, when we're talking the sums of money that we're talking here, it could shade advice one way or the other. And therefore, I guess what I'm asking this board is to have the leadership seek alternative counsel who can help us when we are dealing with issues around PCBs. So that's my ask. I am suggesting that we take no action on the merits of the suit. I will say my reading suggested it ain't free after all, as it was originally represented, because we would have some obligations, which are more particularly described in this document. But that we separate the question of counsel from the merits of the suit, which we discussed Wednesday night at the SU. So can I offer a motion? And of course, we might have a question as to whether it's germane or not, but I will offer a motion for discussion, which is that I move that the Union High School Board directs chair to seek out alternate counsel for the purpose of advising on matters which involve PCBs only. And implied in that motion is the fact that we would be retaining current counsel for all other matters that come up. So you have a motion,
So,
and I, of course, would like to know if anyone around the table wishes to challenge the motion as to whether it's germane. And I have made the motion, spoken to it, and
so the motion, David, just to repeat it, is for me to find another lawyer other than Pietro to help us with the PCBs, or am I directing Andy to do
with
that?
PCBs. You might want help from the superintendent of schools. I can certainly give you 2 or 3 attorneys who've worked with this board in the past. And Mike, being on RVTC board, has a direct line into Bob Flint, who's the chair of RVTC board and also director of Springfield Regional Development Corporation, and has had quite a bit of experience dealing with PCBs. He may be able to make a recommendation of counsel that he has worked with before and thinks would be satisfactory for the purpose.
Okay, all right, so there is a motion on the floor. David had already spoken to it. Any other questions? I saw some hands over here. I can't remember who had them up there.
Does that motion need to be seconded, or do we just vote on it?
Small board, but
That doesn't need to be second. So I can't remember. Do we speak to the motion first?
I have spoken to my motion. I think what you could do is open it up for discussion, and then
I'd like to open that motion up for discussion. Rob?
Yeah, I mean, David, I think you bring up some good points, and I think that's something I believe we would want to, as a board, have further discussions on. But I do think conflict of interest needs to be looked at. But I almost worry that we're looking at this and we're asking to make a motion right now. So my question is, can we hold on for a few weeks, have further discussion, even if it's an executive session, to make sure we're moving
the way I
forward?
would read Rob is he's questioning whether my motion is germane tonight under the discussion action item. And I would not challenge him on his concern, because I'm the one who put the concern on the table. I think we do have to act on it timely. Oh, pardon me. You're absolutely, Rob is absolutely correct in his interpretation. It's my intent, I'm sorry, simply to broach the topic and then return to it Thursday when we have another board meeting morning.
Okay, so are you, I want to be clear, are you
I
taking a
withdraw the
motion? Okay, so we don't need to vote on it. All right.
Consider my remarks to be advisory.
Yes, Priscilla.
I think that we all need to be sure that we look at number 2, which says 33 and 1/3%
that's
goes
right,
to
I did,
them. And then if there's additional fees, we'd probably have to pay even above that. So
That's what it looks like.
I think we need to be aware of that.
So it's stuff we need to absolutely consider. Okay, moving on to number 9, new business for discussion and action. 9A, appointments, resignation, executive session if needed. Do we have any appointments? Kelly?
I have a resignation.
Resignation. That does not need to be read in executive session, correct?
No, I don't believe, I mean, that'll be I think it's pretty public knowledge.
Okay.
So,
Kelly, go ahead. Read it.
I would like to read a letter. Ms. Orion, please accept this letter of resignation from my position as school counselor effective today. I have enjoyed my time as a school counselor, and although I have mixed emotions as I bid farewell to this important role, I am beyond thrilled to continue my professional journey at the Bellas Falls Union High School as the Dean of Students. I look forward to supporting the academic, career, and personal and social development and growth of all students through a different lens. Sincerely, Mark Chico.
Good.
Not really a resignation.
No.
Because that got my anxiety level up, so So, yes, we all knew it, but I thank you for reading that letter. And it is.
Last time, so.
Yeah.
It is requesting a release from his current contract.
I would like to make a motion that we do a reassignment, not a resignation.
This last time.
But he had not officially given us a letter, so I asked him the letter.
Oh, I was freaking out. I thought somebody else was leaving.
No.
And we don't need to make that.
Like days of our lives.
That's just information for you.
Okay, moving on to 9.
So we did find a replacement.
Yep, so
Yeah.
Rosie was,
Yeah.
Rosie DeCamp was, yep.
Replaced.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yes, yeah, yeah.
My watch just went off.
So, moving on to 9B, hiring committee. So, it was brought up, that we want to make sure that we follow, VSA something or other, for, our job as the board. And we want to, I think the only way we could do it is a rotation of people so that, we're not holding up any hiring processes and, we're not, micromanaging at the same time. So what I'm going to do is, I would like to, have a hiring committee. And on that, and my vision is with the hiring committee, we have a rotation, and I picked 5 people. 5 people, and these people don't have any ties with this school. So I have 2 children that attend this school, so I am taking myself off of any hiring committee. So this way I'm not biased in any way. And there's other people on the board that also have children or are, were a teacher, at one point, or I want to make sure there's 0 conflict and it's an even playing field. That is a board representative and not any question of a conflict. So I chose for the hiring committee of, Deb, Mike, David, Jamie, and Tanya. And so Kelly, what I'm asking you to do is when you have a person to hire, just get on the horn and call one, email one. If they can't do it for whatever reason, go to the next one. And whatever rotation you decide.
Who was that again? Deb, Mike, David, and Tanya?
Jamie and Tanya.
Jamie.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yep.
If none of those 5 are available, because what we've run into in the past, so past practice had been, there weren't board members on hiring committees, and we just moved forward and hired. When I took over as superintendent, I feel that it's helpful to have a board member on hiring committees because it helps with the vetting process and it helps when we bring a candidate to the board. Somehow that's gotten to the point where we're at now. But I guess my clarifying question is, are you saying that we cannot interview and hire people if we don't have a board member on the committee?
No, I'm saying you get to pick one of those.
But if none of them are available, because what happens is, in the past, maybe I'm asking this, is because what's happened is we try to set it up and let's say, Jamie says, we've asked and Jamie says, yeah, I'll do it. And so we start to schedule it and Jamie's like, I can't do that date, I can't do this date, I can't do that date, I can't do this date. And we're losing candidates because we can't even get a committee together. So I need Kelly to be able to get a committee together, set up a schedule and hire. If we can't, if we gotta go through a phone tree of 5 people and 5 people can't make it, we have the potential of losing the candidates. So that's my concern.
I will push this back on you. I think Kelly's gonna do such a fantastic job that we're gonna have to hire a lot less people. So there's not even gonna have to be a question of a committee. And I seriously doubt that one of the 5 will not make themselves available either on Zoom or in person. I think it's the right thing to do, and and we can revisit this again next month. If somebody really has an interest of being on a hiring committee, then they should, as Deb would say, come to us and plead their case. And then we can maybe add them to the committee. But I think it's I think it's the right thing to do for our promise to the public of communication and non-bias, and from the administration to us of, you know, the past accusations of micromanaging and bias. So I think it's a good step in the right direction.
But again, just for, I'm sorry, just for clarification, if all 5 are unavailable on the date that we're trying to set up an interview, can we proceed forward with those interviews, or are we
Yes,
not? Okay.
yes, but I don't think that's
Jason,
gonna happen.
I don't think there's any reason to not ask one of the other 5 at that point. There's, I mean,
Well, I
all
tell you
of
what,
us, all of us are interested in the best interests of the school, and that I think is our only.
So, and I know we are, but, you know, again, I'll use myself. I have kids in the school and I don't want to be accused of being biased one way or the other. They're prejudiced. So, I want to make sure that, you know, I want to make sure that we try to do that. And it's, you know, it's nothing wrong with trying, right?
I agree. I just wanted to make sure I don't want to hold up anything.
Nobody wants to hold up. That's why,
That's all.
that was the original question when it was brought up that, you know, oh my God, what if I have to hire somebody and nobody's, you know, now I have to go to each board meeting and then somebody has to, because that'll be weeks out. You know, this will be a couple minutes out. So, Rob, go ahead.
So Jason, just clarification, because there's a committee of hiring tomorrow that includes yourself and myself.
Yep.
How do we want to proceed with that? I think that's pretty fair.
So I think, so I thought that the ones that are already set up would leave, and then going forward, you know, any other hires. So there's only have 3 more people, or does a driver's ed need a committee to hire when you hire that person?
If I get a candidate, I would love to come along.
Okay.
You do have a couple questions on Zoom.
Oh, I see some hands.
Okay, I'll allow it. Chris, go ahead.
Hi there. Statutorily, there's absolutely no requirement that a board member serve on a hiring committee. And in fact, it can be problematic. The way the statutes work is that for a licensed person, the superintendent makes a recommendation for a single person to the board. The board can go along with the superintendent or send them back for another person. I don't know where this got started. I'm afraid it got started with Andy's predecessor, who didn't really understand anything. But I am concerned, and I share Andy's concern that things need to be fairly clearly delineated between the responsibilities of the board and the superintendent. And I am just going to say there's nothing in the statute that says you have to do this, even though I respect the fact, Jason, that you have made every attempt to remove any conflict of interest in this, but just my statement. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. There's is the
I don't know
iPhone.
who iPhone is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're not gonna take.
Oh, wait, no, it's me, Jessica. I switched, I'm sorry, I came home. So I just had a question. Are you gonna include, I don't know if Deb's grandchildren still go there, but that would be the same kind of situation that you're in, Jason, if that's what you're trying to do is not have any bias or anything. It is a small community, so you're going to run into a lot of that, I think. But I just didn't know if Deb's still had grandchildren there, because I think you mentioned her name as being on the committee.
Can I address that?
Please.
Nope, I don't have any high schoolers going here, but I also want to address Jason and say, I don't want to be on the list. I have, for the years I've been here, I felt that we've kind of been spoon-fed what comes to the board in the end anyway. I don't feel it's transparent. When we've been offered a teacher or whatever they are. I have not seen documentation of their resume or anything like that I would look at myself and do something with, just to be sure that I felt comfortable. I'm expected to accept what comes forward, what is recommended. And since I don't feel the transparency there, I would prefer not to be on the list, and it has nothing to do with that, because again, I don't have any grandkids in the school.
So
So take me off, please.
May I challenge you on that? I think that is exactly the reason why you need to be on that committee.
And I do, but I prefer not to be.
Okay.
Okay, I'm already over expanding the number of seats I thought I was not doing when I come back to doing.
David?
Well, my immediate response here is what is not prohibited in the statute is permitted. And I think from the standpoint that when you can get a board member onto a hiring committee and that board member endorses the hire, I think it's going to expedite that hire. Also, you know, I don't think we had the problem we had in the past, because the most recent hires that we've had here have had resumes presented to the board. I think we want to be careful about how we do that.
Of course, but that's
as was pointed out to us.
confidential information.
I think it actually be an enhancement for the hiring process to have a board member available when those hires are being interviewed.
So Deb, I'll leave it like this. Leave you in the rotation, and if your name comes up, then we go on to the next one. We can try it, right?
You can try it.
You
You
can
might
try.
catch me on a different day.
We can always show. That's the beauty of politics, I guess, right? Mike, go ahead.
My recent experience being on a committee, hiring committee, was awesome. And it actually provided an opportunity for me to work with the teachers directly. We don't get a lot of opportunities to work directly with the teachers. And it gave me insight into what they were looking for and what they identified. And guess what? We had exactly the same thoughts on the candidate, which never happens in any interview I've done in any career or opportunity. So I thought it was an awesome experience, and I would hope to be able to participate in more of those. It's a great way, I think, again, to know some of the teachers individually and hear their opinions, and I think it's a great team building opportunity. So I would say, you know, rules aside, it's a real plus in my mind.
All right, moving on, 9C, review and approve policy B21, professional development. So, you're up.
I would make a motion that we approve policy B21, professional development. This is a recommended best share policy that covers the professional development that is done and set up by the administration for the staff to be able to improve student learning and achievement, document everything that they're doing. It gives structure and substance. It focuses on content and curricular needs. It includes the needs of the teachers in improving their skills and improving their ability to teach their students. And basically, we looked at our previous policy and we looked at the recommendations by the state for the new recommended professional development. And the policy committee works under consensus so that we have members from all of the different boards, and they agree that this was what they wanted for the policy. It was warned on July 26, 2023. So it has been over the 10 days. It has been approved by at least one of the boards already.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for that, or do you have a?
I made the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion. You have a question about it?
I've probably asked this before, but where are they warned?
Where are they what?
Warned.
They're put on the website, and if you go to the website, you will find them. And then they're also sent to the board members prior to the meeting so that you can see them.
Under a policy tab?
Pardon?
Policy tab? Is that where they're found?
Yeah, if you go on there and look and just put in policy, it will bring up the list of policies. Andy?
So, yeah, I was
You
just
have-
gonna say, if you go under, on our website, under central office.
Yeah.
The fourth one down is district policies. And that will take you to a page, and there is, the first one up there is recently warned/adopted, but not yet organized. So
Okay.
anything that's warned or adopted is placed there.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the search feature, it gives you a lot of stuff you don't need to see.
Yeah.
For
But,
policy.
but
So
that's exactly how you get.
That's more succinct,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, for a vote. David, how do you vote?
Yes.
Deb?
Aye.
Rob? Yes. Darcy?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Tanya?
Yes.
And Jane?
Yes.
Thank you. Priscilla, thank you again for all your hard work for that. Accessing documents and document storage. Jamie, I believe this one was yours. Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I don't have, anything planned for this other than as a new board member, I really struggled, I think, to get up to speed with a lot of things, and it was hard to find information about what previous board members and you all had already been working on. So I was hoping that we could, work a little harder at keeping documents together and, getting board members up to speed in the future. And, Andy, I think it said that, moving forward, maybe they were gonna put them publicly on the website, and that was something that they were working on. So, yeah.
I was looking into the legalities also of
Mhm.
not wanting to violate open meeting laws, so that's, I can't recall if I actually got an answer. I do admit that, so I'll have to go back and search. As far as, what setting things up and making sure there's not, discussion around things, but I mean, I know in the past we've had a shared Google folder.
Right.
And I think my experience with that is folks being able to navigate that, and not everyone is great at navigating Google
Stop
folder.
talking about me.
I was talking about myself, to be honest with you. But we'll definitely look into that. I'll talk with Ricky and see if we get that set up.
And just a minute. And because it had come up over the last week, any conversations that a group of board members have on email is public information. Anyone calling for an FOIA or a public records request would be able to get them from you. So understand it's considered an unwarned meeting and a violation of open meeting law on BSA. So just so you know, better. And they'll actually even tell you, I've been up to BLCT many times where they don't even like this. And you call and talk to each other about stuff that you're gonna be talking about at a board meeting. They don't care for it, or if you meet each other in the square or something like that. But the reality is, a bunch of us tag in, that's why Facebook is a problem, tag in on comments, we're having on one meeting, and it's violation, so best to not.
Thank you. Jamie, thank you. That's a great idea, and appreciate the insight. Up next, we have 9E, authority to purchase carbon filters as needed. June, I believe that you.
I would like to propose that we give Kelly and Andy the authority to purchase carbon filters for the high school, which will help with the PCBs. That we will be reimbursed for those, but first we have to pay for them and then submit and.
Is that a motion, Jimmy?
Is it a motion?
Yes.
Okay. It's a motion.
Let's go speak on that.
Does anyone else wish to speak on it first before we let the superintendent speak? Kelly, we'll let you speak. You had your hand up, I think.
Oh, no, I would know if Andy doesn't want to.
So all I was gonna say, one, you heard Jill say, there's $13 million set aside. So it is 100% reimbursable with no cap. So it's kind of first come, first serve on that. So I want to be very clear with that, with the board. The second, piece was, you got me lost on all that, I'll come back up and tell you.
Andy, can you speak on the importance of why we would be doing carbon filters?
Well, so the carbon filters would allow us to dilute potentially dilute, the PCBs in the air, and allow us to, reduce, or that'd be part of that mitigation piece to allow us to bring those numbers down so that, we might get into more acceptable, levels.
So I think it's good that we're being proactive, right? That we're, this is a serious issue and we're not waiting, we're jumping, we have enough smarts to know that this is a good idea, let's do it, let's not wait. And it's, we want to protect the kids. So Kelly?
Real quick, I'm sorry, I just remember what else I was gonna say. We've already set up account codes in the system so that anything that's purchased under for PCB mitigation gets tagged to that so that we can track those numbers. That's why I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
I think I think I found it really helpful to know that that carbon filtration recommendation, those portable units were recommended by the consultant we spoke with at 4 o'clock today. Those exact units have already been approved for another school by the DEC. They are accessible. The DEC already has kind of a freestanding arrangement with this company. They're about $1,100 a unit. The exact number of units is going to be determined in consultation with the consultant, but anywhere from 30 to 50 probably to start. The other thing that I think was really helpful is that in the consultant's opinion, once we get those filters in the building, they could retest as soon as 48 hours, right, after those are in the building. So in looking at the D-wing in particular, right, where our levels are kind of at that school action level between 100 and 300, they feel like we would see some noticeable difference there just within that 48 hours of implementation. The other thing he noted, which I again found really helpful, is that retest that could happen after those filtration pieces are in place. We could request an expedited testing run. And they said they've seen it come back in 1 to 2 weeks. So, and that in their experience, the AOE has supported the added expense with rushing those types of test results. So it seems like this is a really good mitigation measure to jump on.
Oh, sorry, so go ahead.
It looks like it's something that really could help us with this mitigation problem, but don't we have a limit that that the principal can order under uncertain things so wouldn't it be covered under that? Because we're looking at approving money that has not been warned on here, although in an emergency, I'm sure we can do that also, but wouldn't it come under that amount that you can go ahead and do that? It's good to let us know, but I'm thinking that
Are you asking up to a certain amount?
yeah, I think it's we can do up to a certain amount without having to do a motion and approve it. It's good to know what we're doing, but there's a certain amount that.
I anticipate that this would exceed whatever that amount is. If you're talking.
50, then it's 55,000.
So there's a couple of things you haven't, I don't, off the top of my head, know what that is.
Yep.
If it's 50,000 or 5,000, I mean, I'll run the gamut there. I'd have to
But you
go
could say
research it.
not to exceed.
But even we can't go above 40,000. We would have to go out to bid anyway. So we would have to try and keep it under 40,000 anyway, but we would also be most likely, not going in, it would not be hitting a lot in a budgeted line. It would probably be coming from capital improvements at this time, because you have those reserves that we would be accessing that you can once reimburse, pay yourself back.
And that money would go back to their capital reserve?
Yep.
Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
So, yeah, thank you. So 2 questions. One, Andy, on the cost of those for reimbursement, if we needed more and there's a consultant that has recommended one, do we still have to go out to bid on that? Or is there a appeal or something that we could say, this is what because PCB is very specific that you're using a consultant? Is there a way to not go out to bid on that?
So I would want to double check with the state, and double check with Jill, Briggs Campbell, but, my understanding is the state potentially has a stockpile of some of these or has access to a stockpile, which may or may not be cheaper than if we went out personally and did them. So we have to unpack that a little bit more. The second piece is if I go out and buy enough units to keep us under the cap, I can go out and buy again, as long as I'm just not going over 40,000 on one time bid.
So, just, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
keep question.
the second question. So I think, and it was great to see a lot of people in this room at the buildings and grounds. And I think one of the questions was, and Jason, I think you brought this up, is the retest, right? Because we got these numbers, we're all absorbing this, we're all trying to take this in. The question is doing a retest. And so I think this carbon filtration system gives us that without actually having to pay to have it retested.
So we asked Greg that question this afternoon. And see if I can unpack this. Kelly, help me here if I get this right. So number one, if we ask for a retest, we would have to pay for that retest. So that's part of it. But by the time we scheduled the retest and they came in and tested, and then we got the results back right now for a retest. And the potential of purchasing these carbon filters, putting them in place, it's almost a 48-hour turnaround to do the retest, which we would have to do under the options because it's part of the mitigation. And so therefore that would just come part of it. So we're almost in the exact same time frame. So his advice was better off getting the units, then doing the testing, because you clearly have PCBs, and this could be a large potentially reduce your numbers so you're able to do it. So that's kind of how I put it. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Kelly, are you gonna order them? Or
So I've already reached out to Evan and the state. We got a little bit of paperwork we have to do before we can just run out and purchase them, because one of the questions I asked was, can we purchase these before we get this letter from him? I did get a whoa in my response. I think some of it has to do with the option that you all choose for us to follow, because I think it all comes in a letter. So,
That's a letter from Greg?
it's
Or
a letter from Evan.
Evan.
Yep.
From DEC. So they take the lead, and basically he says, he said you get can't remember what he said, but basically you get an authorization letter to go ahead and start work. And so that's what we need.
David, kind of addressing Kelly here. ME report, April 2021, indicates the air handlers are working at 55% of their rated capacity. Do we have any idea whether that has been corrected?
I don't. We can ask Steve Horton.
So can we ask?
Steve Horton, I think, would be my primary point of initial inquiry. I don't know.
Okay, because working at 100% would probably be more efficient in terms of removing PCBs 55%. You know, my some math.
If memory serves me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think they urged caution in firing up the HVAC unit any further beyond where it's currently operating, because they needed time to assess if there's any issues.
I think they are
Yep.
ignorant of the current state of the HVAC in making that statement.
So
So once again, back to your consultant and get his read on that.
That was the consultant's recommendation.
Oh, that was the consultant's
And
then I stand down.
just so for clarification, part of it is when PCBs, when they're gassed off, they actually permeate into other materials. And so one of the concerns is they actually can permeate into the metal of our ductwork. And they could be just sitting there. And if we fire it up, we could actually increase the PCB particulates. And that's actually what happened in Twin Valley, was they had HVAC systems that were not operating at full capacity. They got them fired up and their numbers increased. And so what everyone has, as far as what the experts in this area have told us, is to let Greg take the lead on telling us what are the next steps. And so that's where, you know, Evan and Greg work very closely together, and where Greg has said, basically what Evan, I'm looking at the email Evan has sent me back this evening, which is we need Greg to tell us how many units we need. And then if he says you need 50 units, then we should go out and get 50 units. If he says you need 2, we get the 2 units and then we do the testing. So that's the piece we're in right now. I think Greg was very responsive to us, understanding where the anxiety lies.
And I think offered to be working close consultation with Steve Horton and with M&E Engineering, right? And kind of reassessing their initial vision based on these updates. So again, I found them very helpful and responsive.
So to clarify, the board has to make their decision on which option before we get the letter from Evan okaying us to install the charcoal carbon filters.
We don't want charcoal.
Carbon filters.
I'll walk that back a little bit. So what Evan had said is, once we have the number and the type of unit information needed, we can put in a purchase order with they can put in the purchase order with the filter manufacturer, and he can write a letter approving the cost to reimburse the invoice. So that is separate from the options piece.
Okay.
So
Okay. Because I'd like to get those like yesterday.
So would somebody like to call a question?
What was the answer? What was the question?
The question is, give the administration authority to purchase carbon filters as needed. Rob would like to call a question. David, how do you vote?
Yes.
Deb?
Aye.
Rob? Yes. Darcy? Phil? Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
Tanya? Jamie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, up next, we have executive session. I don't think we have any others. Number 11, director comments, long meeting. David, we'll start with you.
Long day, good turnout.
Thank you, David. Deb?
Well, originally before the meeting, I asked if maybe we should limit exposure to PCBs by wearing N95. Creating a reaction immediately from one particular point of view. I'm simply reminding people that we're exposed to PCBs all the time, whether it's our home, the food we eat, our environment, because they're all gathering fish, everything. So, but a healthy thing for you could be a terribly polluting thing if it's from a toxic flake. Anyway, we also eliminate PCBs on a daily basis. Our eliminations remove, I don't know how many NGs per day, but when we do what we do with humans and every other animal on the planet, we are releasing some PCBs as well. So I know that the DEC said the highest concentration is turns up at schools, but and there are some serious consequences if we have enough in our body. But it is serious, and we want to take care of it. And we'd like to take care of it much faster than they're telling us we have to wait to take care of it. That was it. So we need to keep level heads about it. We will get it done, and we definitely have every intention, and we will take care of it.
Thank you, Deb. Rob?
Yeah, I think great 2 meetings. I feel the collaboration going on here in terms of making sure that we're making a decision that's for the safety and well-being of our faculty and staff and students and community. And I'm really encourage everyone to come to the meeting on Thursday so they can help also be educated with the groups that we have coming down. And then, I think to Mike's point about listening, this is our job, is to listen to our community and hear some of the concerns that are being raised, and then also be active in terms of addressing them. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Darcy?
I just want to thank, excuse me, Kelly and Andy for the time that they put into the research and getting PCB's program going, get them out of the school. Also to Jeff Potter for the time that he's put in. Besides for PCBs, just a lot of work in our school. And I want to thank all of the board. I think we're all committed to our staff and our students and our community, and we're just going to keep working to keep things moving.
Thank you, Doris. So,
Yes. Yeah, when I first heard this early this afternoon, early this morning, I guess, because the meeting started at 12. Wow, what are we going to do? You know, and I'm sure our people, our families are going to feel that way when they first experience that shock of, oh, we're being exposed kind of thing. But as Deb said, it also, they're in everything that we deal with. And so it's something that knowing that the state will support the school in all the levels of options should make us more comfortable, and knowing how much our administration is already starting to be on top of this right away and getting ready to mitigate immediately, so that the two areas that are really have been identified, the auditorium and the gymnasium, can be taken care of, and the rest of the school is okay for usage according to what we've been told. I have total faith in them being able to deal with this and take care of our students and make them safe. Certainly too bad that this is coming on top of COVID for the last 2 years, but I think that probably has us instantly responding and instantly nervous about it, even more so than we would have been had this been all by itself. So I think we have to relax a little bit and realize that since both of the option 2 and option 3 are something that our school can handle and can do, and letting parents see how that our administration can do that is important. So just take care of everybody all at once. Take care of our staff, administration, and support them and let them know that we care about them and we care about our families.
thank you, Priscilla. Mike?
Yeah, obviously a lot going on, big week coming up. But in the background, listening sessions continue with the board. On August 28th, we have Kendra Rickerby, who is the new head of the Columbus School, an independent school here in town, with also a veteran of flexible pathways coming in, as we heard from Kelly. They're working on that here. Also, September, the following listening session will be Mark Evo and Andrea Carlson, who will be talking about flexible pathways being implemented here in the school. So while we have some major news here, we also have to continue to focus on the other aspects, the other systematic issues in the school, and that listening session will continue, and we'll continue to get input from experts in and out of the school.
Thanks, Mike. Jamie?
I just want to thank Andrew and Kelly for their hard work on this already. It's a lot to take in, and you are already running with it. So kudos to both of you for that. And I also want to echo what Rob said about encouraging the community to really come out and listen and have your voices be heard, because we are here for the students and for this community. So
Thanks, Jamie. Time?
all set. All set.
Good. So I'd say a couple things. So for me, it is about not setting the kids back academically, again, as COVID did. Like in any challenging time, it'll require all of us to come together and to make sure the kids have the best opportunity to succeed. I'd like to thank the board members for hanging in. I thought we would be here a lot longer, but thank you. And, you know, I was willing to stay as long as it takes to get things accomplished. I'd like to thank, everybody in the audience for hanging in, everybody online. And, you know, I am sad about the condition of the school and how we got here. But, you know, as I said at the building and ground, I'm committed to fixing the infrastructure, and paying attention to it as much as we pay attention to the salaries that are 70% of the budget. So we have to fix the infrastructure. So I'm charging Kelly and Andy to do that, and it has to be top of mind, and it can't be forgotten, no matter what else is going on. Because after we fix PCBs, and we will fix it, there's gotta be something else. And then there's gonna be something else. So that's our job. And, you know, that's how we roll, right? So, next meeting, actually, we have another buildings and grounds meeting on Wednesday. I encourage, to open to the public, if you wanna come, 12 o'clock right here at the high school. We're gonna be doing a tour of the outside of the facility. We have a lot of, stuff to fix on the outside of the building. And then we have a WNESU meeting at 6 o'clock Wednesday, and then we have another meeting Thursday at the middle school. So I'd like to call this meeting adjourned at 9:05.
This meeting was recorded by Falls Area Community Television, located at 1 Hospital Court, Bellows Falls, Vermont. If you would like a copy of the meeting, our phone number is 802-463-1613, or email us at fact810@gmail.com. Falls Area Community TV, keeping government honest.